The year was 1944. Europe was burning. The Allies had landed in Normandy, pushing slowly east toward Germany, but the skies above were still deadly. Every day, hundreds of Allied bombers flew deep into enemy territory, and every day, many never came back. This is the story of one of those men, a young American pilot who found himself trapped behind enemy lines, hunted, wounded, and alone, yet refused to surrender. His name was Lieutenant David Morrison. He was just 23 years old. June 19, 1944. The sun rose over northern France, cutting through a thin veil of smoke and morning fog. From a small airfield in southern England, B-17 bombers began their engines, their thunder rolling across the countryside. Their mission: strike a German munitions plant near Emi. Lieutenant Morrison was flying as co-pilot aboard the Liberty Bell, a 4-engine flying fortress armed to the teeth. The men joked and smiled as they boarded, but they all knew the truth. Every mission into occupied France was a gamble, and luck had a habit of running out. Hours later, high above the French countryside, black clouds of flak filled the sky. German anti-aircraft guns opened fire. Explosions erupted all around the bomber formation. Morrison's aircraft shook violently, engines smoking, alarms blaring. Then, a burst of shrapnel tore through the fuselage. One engine caught fire. Another failed. Within seconds, the Liberty Bell was falling from the sky. The pilot shouted over the intercom, "We're hit! Bail out! Bail out now." One by one, the crew jumped into the open sky. Parachutes bloomed like white flowers against the gray clouds, except for Morrison. A piece of metal had torn into his leg. He was losing blood fast. He crawled toward the open hatch, flames behind him, and leapt into the void. The wind roared in his ears as he fell. Below him, miles of farmland, forests, and German patrol roads. He pulled the The chute jerked opened hard. He drifted down silently, the burning wreck of the Liberty Bell crashing in the distance. When dead, his leg gave out. He hit the ground, rolled, and pulled himself under a head. In the distance, he heard shouting, German voices, dogs barking. He was deep in enemy territory, alone, wounded, and the Germans were already searching. For 2 days, Morrison hid in ditches and barns, surviving on rainwater and a single chocolate bar from his flight suit pocket. His wound was infected. He could barely walk. On the third night, as he crawled through a wheat field under the moonlight, he saw something moving ahead, a lantern, flickering softly. A French farmer stood there, looking straight at him for a long moment. Neither moved. Then the farmer whispered, "Anglais." Morrison nodded. The farmer quickly motioned him inside, hiding him beneath floorboards as a German patrol passed by just outside. For the first time in days, Morrison slept safe, but far from free. Over the next few weeks, the farmer's family nursed him back to health. They gave him bread, wine, and bandages, risking their lives every day. Because in Nazi-occupied France, harboring an Allied pilot was a death sentence. Morrison learned that the French resistance was active nearby, a secret network helping downed airmen escape through Belgium and into Spain. When he was strong enough, he was taken by night to a small farmhouse outside Amiens. There, a man named Jacques Morel, a resistance fighter, handed him forged identity papers and a stolen German jacket. Morel said only one thing: you must not speak. If they hear your voice, they'll know you're not one of us. And just like that, Morrison began his long journey home. For the next month, he lived as a ghost. He rode in the backs of hay carts, hid in church basements, and slept in abandoned barns. German patrols were everywhere: tanks, trucks, and Gestapo agents combing the countryside for terrorists. Twice, he narrowly escaped capture. Once, when a train he was hiding in was stopped and searched, he stood silently as a German officer walked right past him, so close he could hear the man's boots creak. Another time, when a German shepherd sniffed near his hiding spot, a resistance woman dropped a basket of bread to distract the soldiers, risking her life for a man she barely knew. Every step was a gamble. Every sunrise, a miracle. Lieutenant August, Morrison, and several other airmen reached the Pyrenees Mountains, the natural border between France and Spain. It was their last obstacle before freedom, but also the most dangerous. The group hiked 4 days through freezing rain, climbing narrow trails under the cover of darkness. German patrols guarded the mountain passages, and the resistance guides knew if they were caught, they'd be executed on the spot. One night, a patrol spotted movement in the snow. Machine gun fire tore through the darkness. Morrison dove behind a rock, bullets whistling overhead. When the gunfire stopped, 2 of the men were gone. The rest kept moving, silent, cold, exhausted. Finally, after 12 hours of climbing, they crossed into neutral Spain. They were safe. Days later, in a small British consulate office in Madrid, Morrison sat down to eat his first real meal in weeks. He was thin, pale, and quiet. When asked how he survived, he said simply, "Because others risked everything for me." He returned to England a month later, one of the few downed pilots to make it home alive from behind enemy lines. Of the 10 men from the Liberty Bell, only 3 survived the crash. He was the only one who made it out of occupied France. After the war, Morrison never forgot the people who saved him, the farmers, the resistance fighters, the women who risked their lives to keep him hidden. Years later, he returned to France and found Jacques Morel's family. He told them, "I lived because he didn't stop fighting, even when no one saw him." In 1970, he donated his Medal of Valor to the museum in Amiens, where it still rests today, dedicated not to himself, but to those who helped him survive. His story is a reminder that heroism doesn't always come with medals or headlines. Sometimes it's found in quiet acts, in the courage to shelter a stranger, or the strength to keep walking through the dark. Lieutenant David Morrison was trapped behind enemy lines, but thanks to the courage of those who refused to look away, he made it home.